Welcome to another episode of Palm Harbor Local, where we bring you inspiring stories from the heart of our community. I'm your host, Donnie Hathaway, and today we're joined by Dr. Jordan Axe. He's a chiropractor and the owner and founder of Axe Holistic Medicine. Now, our show is all about celebrating those who have put in the sweat, overcome the hurdles, and still find time to give back to the community. If you want to be inspired by how they got started, what keeps them going, and what they're doing to make Palm Harbor even more awesome, you're in the right place. In today's episode, you'll learn the definition of functional medicine, how Dr. Jordan Axe became a functional medicine doctor, and his best tips for taking back control of your health. Now be sure to follow us on social media at Palm Harbor Local for behind the scenes content and join our weekly newsletter at palmharborlocal.com. Let's get started. So Dr. Jordan Axe, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to chat with you. We were just chatting a little bit about health and kind of your approach and some of the things that are important to you and stuff. So we'll dive into some of that. But first, I want to start off with like functional medicine. Like how do you like define that?
Functional medicine I would consider is just what should be true healthcare, right? It's like, hey, talk to a patient, get a good history, do an evaluation, do the testing, and then figure out what's causing their issue, their ailment, and then give them the things that are going to fix it, right?
Yeah.
Not a shortcut, not a long cut, just exactly what it is, right? To me, that's just like what it should be, right? And so what we call traditional medicine is pretty much give a diagnosis and give a procedure or medication for it. It's giving medicine, right? It's not like the practice of being a doctor. In my opinion, being a functional medicine doctor is really just being a detective. Mm-hmm. You know,
it's funny you say that because I looked up the definition before, and it was kind of like, you know, like what you just said, like let's take a history, let's talk to the patient, let's understand like what's going on, and then find a solution, like a root cause solution. Yeah. And I'm reading that and I'm just like, yeah, why isn't
that's why I think innately, like if you ask people what a doctor was, they would kind of tell you that's what it is,
right?
But that's not what they're doing,
right? So how do we get away from that? And now it's like coming back where like that seems like what more people are after now is this functional medicine approach.
And I think we always look at the root cause. My clinic was called the Root Cause Clinic originally, but we had a name change. But I think the root of it is like, how did medicine turn into this? Like, who made that decision, right? Yeah. Like, how did we get here? It's like money, right? Is the root cause of all evil. And so I think obviously money or a lot of it has to do with insurance and insurance reimbursements. It's like insurance kind of made sense, but unfortunately what doctors are doing is dictated by the insurance, not by what gets the patient better. Mm-hmm. So you're following money instead of getting the patient better. And it's made the whole thing go totally backwards. Mm-hmm. And, it's crazy. It's like, hey, for an exam code, a lot of insurances reimburse a doctor $40 for an exam. That's why primary care doctors are going under. Mm-hmm. But then you can do this procedure that takes 6 minutes and you can bill $1,000. Mm-hmm. So the doctor's like, I can spend 40 minutes talking to the patient and help them and get paid $40, or I could inject them and get $1,000. What do you think the businesses that own the doctors are going to start to promote?
Yeah.
So you follow the money. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? It's common sense. I think that's the root cause is insurance and following those guidelines and where the money's going.
Is there a way that we can I guess like progress past that or move past that and get back to like, let's treat the patient, find their root cause and really like prevent a lot of the, illnesses that we have today?
Yeah. I mean, to me, I guess I've been doing it long enough. It just seems so simple.
Yeah.
Like I said, you don't need to be a doctor to take a really deep history.
Yeah.
I remember I had this patient. Her memory was totally gone. She was young, like upper 20s or something like that.
Oh, wow.
And husband was like military, and she had like 15 MRIs, like her brain and a bunch of other stuff. And they're just like, we don't know. You're depressed, take an antidepressant, right? That kind of thing. And I was like, so I'm just taking a history. When did it start? Oh, 2013. Okay. And when did you move to Florida? That's about 2013. I'm like, okay, let's go down this path a little bit. Like, I'm not even looking for this, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, and you moved into, so long story short, it's like, hey, there was mold in her house, right? Did a mold test, found it. She was excreting mold. We did a mold test on her body, not her house, right? And she got out of her house, whatever. We did a mold detox, and a month later, memory was back,
Crazy.
I didn't even get into anything with her yet. It was like a 5-minute conversation. So it's just like a history. Like, just be a detective. Don't even think like a doctor, right? Start there and then do the testing to narrow it down. Like, some people, I'm like, this could be maybe you got a parasite, maybe something that you're eating. I'll put like 6 plausible possibilities together and I let the testing narrow it down. Yeah. Okay, we've narrowed it down to 3 things. Let's treat those 3 things, right? So that's not rocket science, right? And it's obviously, being a good practitioner, you have like a lot of experience with the testing and knowing what to look for, but at the core, it shouldn't be complicated.
Yeah. It's almost so in like that scenario that you're talking about, it's like they're looking for something to treat, right? That's why they do like all the MRIs and all that kind of stuff, right? It's like, instead of finding out, well, what's the root cause? I mean, we keep saying that, but all right. So how did you get into this career? Is this something like you like grew up like, this is what I want to do, and you knew right out the gates? Or investing is extremely important, but it can also be somewhat confusing with taxes, asset allocation, stocks, bonds, and funds. To know what to do with all this could be overwhelming. Jacob Wade is a financial coach and will work directly with you to put together a roadmap for your money, for life. Jacob has built a name for himself as a finance expert, and you can find his writings in places like Forbes Advisor, Money.com, Investopedia, and Time.com. But he has a passion for helping people create a clear and simple investment roadmap to buy back their time and retire with confidence. If you could use a financial coach on your team, then simply go to palmharborlocal.com/roadmap to book a call with Jacob today and see if hiring a financial coach could help you crush your 2025 goals. Don't wait to have that same feeling next year of not hitting your financial goals. Connect with Jacob today and let's make 2025 your best financial year yet.
Not at all. I always wanted to be an engineer.
Okay.
So I would love building things, and that's always what I wanted to do. And then I was in undergrad engineering, and I started working for my brother, who was a chiropractor, and he was doing like a lot of health talks, getting out in the community, helping people with their health and everything. And I started shadowing a civil engineer, mechanical engineer, and they were just sitting in cubicles. It's like, I thought I was going to be like on the tractor, like knocking the building over. I don't know, Yeah. And I was like, And then I saw him in the community and like actually helping people. Engineers help mankind, obviously, but I just wanted to be a little bit more active. Anyway, so I started building equipment for him, actually, like welding it together, building tables, building vibration plates. And I went to a seminar with him about structural correction chiropractic, where the engineers like 100 years ago created these techniques.
Oh, wow.
Where you use engineering principles and physics to like correct people's spine and get their posture back. I'm like, okay, well, I can use my engineering brain and maybe go into chiropractic. Really, right? So it led me into there. And then I was having a lot of health issues kind of leading up to this, just sick all the time. I was like the sick kid.
Okay.
Chronic sinus infections, fatigued, some anxiety. And anyways, my brother said, go to this more holistic clinic, a functional medicine doctor.
Yeah.
They did a bunch of testing. Hey, I went there for my eczema because it had gone out of control, and I was putting steroid cream on it.
Yep.
And the steroid cream seemed like it wasn't working as well. And I'm like, oh gosh,
what do I do now?
Like, it's like on my body. I'm like, is this gonna like take over my body?
Yeah.
And I walk around and I see people that I would have been in that same boat. It's like their entire arms, right? At the time, I thought it would kill me, right?
Yeah.
Now I see people, they're alive, but, right, it doesn't look good, doesn't feel good. The main thing was a stool test, and they said your microbiome is just totally jacked. You took all these antibiotics for your acne when you were a kid, and everything else happened. And I took Accutane also, too, which is linked to autoimmune disease. So they're like, yeah, your gut's screwed up, and it's causing your skin issues, and it's turned into an autoimmune Hashimoto's thyroiditis, an autoimmune thyroid condition. So I went through their protocols for 6 months, a lot of the same stuff I do at my clinic today, and we did a lot of testing, but the stool test was the meat and potatoes, and skin totally cleared up in 60 days, and my autoimmune antibodies were gone in 4 months.
Crazy.
And I was like, my chiropractor, like doctor behind my name, I'm learning about natural medicine. I would love to open a clinic doing structural correction, but also offering everything holistic. People like a one-stop shop. People can get everything they need to get healthy. And 2016 opened up, and that's kind of what happened. And
nice.
It's been good.
Did you, in 2016, was that like right out of school, or were you a chiropractor somewhere else?
2 years. I worked for someone else. Learned how to get in the community.
Yeah.
Learned how to talk in front of people.
Yeah.
Live with my parents. They spent zero money. They cooked for me, and I saved every dime that I made working for a year.
Yeah.
And they helped me a little bit. I opened like 4 credit cards. 10 grand. I put all the money. I'm like, all right, I got a year to make, be successful. Let's get it done. Yeah. And I just worked as hard as I could.
Yeah. What did you learn, like, before you opened the clinic? Like, what did you learn in those 2 years, like practicing, living with your parents, that set you up for opening up your own clinic?
Yeah, it was really getting out in the community, doing a lot of health talks, because I knew if you open something from scratch, no one's coming.
Yeah.
Every single person that walks through the door, you're going to have to go out and meet, shake hands and acquire. So that for me was just like kind of that preparation, and learning about the integrating chiropractic with physical therapy. I was going to seminars. It was a time of prep, and it was a weird time for me too, like that transition. Like you're used to being in school your whole life, and like no friends. I'm like I'm like, oh, like what is going on? But that's where, like, I know we were talking about mindset earlier. I started getting like Tony Robbins, like Awaken the Giant Within, and like trying to get control of my thoughts and my emotions, which is big in how we treat our patients now, like incorporating. So that was a big thing personally that I went through during that time also.
What led you to that? Is that something you've always been like, kind of like that personal development side of it, or did something happen that you were like, I need to learn more about this and be better myself mindset?
I think it was just when you're in school, they tell you what to do, and then it's like, okay, I'm preparing. I've had mentors, I've had school, and then it's like now I'm just like floating out here. I can do whatever I want. I don't know what I want. I don't know what I'm doing. Like you just kind of like almost had like a breakdown, Yeah. And I wanted to learn like breathing and meditation, and just I don't even know. I think someone just gave me the book, and it was life changing and just helped me get control over a lot of that. Yeah. But
that was your first book, Tony Robbins, Awaken the Giant Within, or what was the first book that really like kicked it off for you?
That's a great question. Actually, because I had the Hashimoto's issues, I was like, this is very dear to me. I want to really become an expert in this, in Hashimoto's. So Dr. Karazian, he's a functional medicine doctor. I read his book on overcoming Hashimoto's. So it was actually some Hashimoto's books. I just jumped into it like early on to try to, but that was the first more like motivational book. And it's still my favorite book. It's like the first one's like my favorite one.
Yeah, I feel like that's always the case, right? Like the first book. Yeah. For me, it was Rich Dad Poor Dad. Yeah. And kind of the same thing. Like I think at that point I was thinking about, I'd considered real estate, and but really just looking for something to like mindset. Like I needed something.
Yeah.
And I jumped into that, and it's like one of my favorite books.
Yeah.
It's a big shift in my, I think maybe because it's like that big like shift
big
in
first step.
Yeah. Right. So it's like this stamps the time period, right?
But even like today, it's like I fell away from a lot of that, but now I'm like, man, I don't think I might open that book back up. It's like something you always, if you're not moving forward with it, you're moving backwards. You're like losing it. It's like, I felt like, oh, I got my mind right, I got this right, I got my business right, but then it's like, okay, now, so that's been like something, the new year, I've been thinking a lot about, like, okay, we got to get back into those habits that got us here,
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I check mark, I can now work on something else. Like, no, you can't check these things off.
That stays with you, yeah.
Yeah.
That's so true. I think I was talking to somebody, but kind of the same thing, like the last couple of years, actually last year, I kind of got out some of my morning habits and stuff too. And I've kind of been thinking about like, okay, reading, like I didn't read much last year, and then that I had, the last 4 or 5 years before that. So like getting back into the habit of like just reading a few pages every single night or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's a big part of it. So you opened your practice in 2016.
Yep.
What was the hardest part of like getting started or that first year in practice?
Everything. I mean, I remember like the first patient walked in, she's like, oh, like, is there any other equipment? Like, it was like, you don't have that rolling volume, like high energy, like 10 people. I was like, oh my gosh, I remember like I learned my own Facebook ads, just staying up to like 3 a.m. like, it's a little bit too advanced for me now, but back then it was a little easier to run your own ads. But just new people. And then I would say right after that was just this realization of like, oh, I thought like I just hired someone and showed them what to do, and then they knew that, and then they just got better at it on their own. And then being like, no, actually you have to like tell them 10 times and train them on it like 20 times. And then you probably still need to touch base with them and make sure they're still doing it that way. Because I was such a self-starter, I didn't realize starting a business, I just thought people were like me.
Yeah.
Right? And like, as we grow and start to hire people, like having like, I mean, it sounds a little ridiculous, but that's kind of what I thought, like I just show them once and then they would excel at it.
Yeah.
Linearly.
Yeah.
Ever after.
Not the case.
Yeah. Like, and so that was hard. And that was like, oh my gosh, like it wasn't really a natural skill set I had. Right. And that's it's like, okay, I need to learn how to market. Okay. I need to like be a better doctor and learn these techniques and learn these testing. Okay, I got that. Oh, now none of the staff knows what they're doing. There's no systems. Okay, now I have to learn how to create systems. And now I need to learn how to train staff. I was like, it was the best thing I ever could have gone through, because I probably like in a year or two could take decades, it seems like, because it was like, you better learn this or you're not going to pay your debt off, like,
yeah.
I think what's his name? He's got that book, like The Power of Being Broke.
Oh, okay.
Right. It's like that whole situation. And so it forced me to become a leader. And then it forced me how to like, I remember the book Traction, Gain Control Over Your Business.
Yeah. I have
yeah.
that out there.
So it just, oh gosh.
How did you balance all of that? Because I think that's a hard part for a lot of like entrepreneurs, business owners, and I'd say most of the small business community doesn't like get past that, where they hire staff and truly become like the CEO of their business. They just get stuck in like I'm just working this job, and maybe I have some staff that are trained to do some things, right? But they're not like truly leveraging their expertise or whatever. So how did you like balance all of that in those first 2 years to grow yourself and grow the business? Was it just like late nights?
Yeah. Well, having mentors, right, is so important. Just be able to call at night and be like, yeah, this is going on, and just getting that little bit of direction. So just between my brother and like my brother-in-law is a chiropractor, started a business, my cousin.
Cool.
Just meeting people at seminars. So I had a lot of good people in my corner. So I just had to really reach to them for direction and figure out what the heck, what's the next step. But then you're fueled by, it's new and it's exciting. So it definitely gives you some energy. Starting a new business.
Yeah, I like that. So your business, Axe Holistic Medicine.
Yep.
What do you guys do there now? Currently.
Yeah. So, I'm still a chiropractor, so we still have that part where we do, we treat auto accidents and like help fix herniated discs and whiplash, and we do, my engineering mind, like we do really good, have the right machines and techniques to fix that, where a lot of the offices don't. It's just like a hot pack or whatever, feel a little bit better. So that's part of our clinic, but the bigger part really is that functional medicine side. We have multiple health coaches. I have another lead doctor, Dr. Binner, who's just brilliant. Like, he's on vacation. He's like studying new research and tests that are coming out.
Yeah.
So he just stays on the leading edge of all that. I send him my labs. I'm like, tell me what to do,
Yeah.
So the doctor and health coaches, we just help a lot of hard cases, and we just have an amazing team. So just functional medicine, a lot of telemed, probably 80% on the phone.
Okay.
And we bring normally 6 months for someone, where we try to get them well, doing the right testing and health coaching, keep them accountable, work on their diet, habits, mindset, training, breathing exercises, all the supplements they need to be doing. We're doing everything, A to Z.
Mm-hmm. So someone comes to you, are they coming to you and saying like, I have this issue and I want it to get fixed, or I just want to be a better version of myself? Like, do you have a mix of that, or what are your majority of your patients?
We get everything.
Yeah.
So I just want to be healthier to I'm dying. But a majority of it is, kind of people like myself, like, I'm doing okay. I'm trying to make health changes, but like, my weight's not the way I want it to be. I'm tired. I don't have the motivation I want. I just got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. I think my hormones are off. Like, my mood's not, it's just like, some of these aren't even diagnosable issues. Like, you want to feel better and do better, right? So, a lot of people are going to their doctor for these things, and they're like, oh no, you don't have liver disease, you don't have cancer, you're not anemic, you're okay, you're depressed, that's why you're tired, take an antidepressant. That's what's happening. Where we're saying, okay, well, maybe your hormones aren't bad, but maybe they're not optimal.
Yeah.
And let's not look at your hormones, let's look at your adrenals and your cortisol, so that has to do with your sleep and your mood and controls your hormones. Like, let's optimize that, even though it's normal in your blood work, right? To digest a piece of bread is the same amount of energy to work out for an hour.
Oh, wow.
So let's optimize your gut health, because if it's working inefficiently and it's burning 2 hours of energy instead of 1, okay, now you're burning half your energy just because your digestive tract is working very inefficiently, just like a motor, right? If it's self-consuming its own energy because it's so much friction, you're not going to make any horsepower. So let's optimize your gut, right? 80% of your serotonin and dopamine made in the gut. It's released in the gut to give you mood, so you're not anxious, tired. Let's optimize the gut, right? So it's like we start there with a lot of patients. We do a lot of stool testing, just like I did with myself. Then we normally work on, so that's number 1. Number 2, clearing the liver, because your gut, if it's not working properly, spills over into the liver.
Okay.
And your liver has like hundreds and hundreds of functions. So we clear the liver. Then we do it if there's like a mold detox, heavy metal detox. We get all this junk that's junking up your system, slowing you down, slowing your brain down, slowing your weight loss down. And then we do testing. I call it kind of the cherry on top. That's when we optimize all the hormones, because a lot of people are going even to more holistic office and they're just getting hormones. And it's like, well, your liver has to process your hormones, and your gut is where you're pooping and getting all the excess hormones or non-processed hormones out. So I'm like, how can you do that when you haven't laid the framework down.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to start over with patients, like, stop doing all that stuff. We're going to do it in 6 months from now, and it's going to work 100 times better.
Yeah.
Right? So that's kind of our theory. That's kind of our process we go through with patients, and we've been able to help a lot of people with it. But the thing we do during the beginning of all that is kind of that lifestyle.
Yeah.
The mindset. Like, what are you thinking? What are you reading? What are your relationships like? What are you eating? Exercise, time management, right? So I was watching a video, and it's like, it's not about time management, it's more about energy management. And it started to be like, well, I want to get home and I want to eat healthier and I want to read this and get some extra stuff done. I'm like, it's 6 o'clock. I have 4 hours, but I'm tired.
Yeah.
Right? I have the time technically. People
Yeah.
are saying they don't have the time. No.
Yeah.
You don't have the energy left.
Yeah. True.
And for me, that was my thing at the beginning of this year. When I'm doing health coaching for myself, is like, let me get my energy up. Let me get my mind right so that I can have the time and I can have the energy to get those things done,
Yeah.
right?
So it's really like laying it's almost like you're building a house, right? You gotta lay the foundation first, right? And that's kind of figuring out like what's going on with your gut and all that stuff, like what you're talking about, and then you can work on building up the walls and putting on the roof and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because like traditional medicine, right? It's like, oh yeah, let's take this, let's try to solve this issue with this medicine that might create more issues and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, we do it with natural health too, in a way.
Yeah, right.
Start covering stuff up, or here's a supplement pill instead of a medication for a condition. It's like, well, is that really fixing what's triggering all this, right?
Yeah. So when it's almost like that should be like why isn't that healthcare from an early age? Like, let's, and can you do like the stool testing yearly, or how often would you do that? Because things are changing, right? Your diet's changing a little bit, your body's changing.
I mean, because that literally saved my life, essentially. I do one a year.
Okay. It's
always been my weakest link. But for a lot of patients, we do regular blood work. We do a Dutch stool test. We a lot of times do a Dutch test. That's to look at your cortisol and deficiencies and your hormones and all that. So yeah, once we fix all that, I'm like, hey, let's touch base. You're doing great. You have your resources. You're your own doctor now. You know what you're doing. Let's do a checkup in 6 months. And yeah, it's been a year now. Let's go ahead and redo that stool test and make sure everything's on the straight and narrow, and get everything optimized before something else happens. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. We want to stay up on it every 6 months or whatever.
And it's to me that makes sense, right? Like we should all be doing that.
Yeah. But yeah, people go, oh, I got my yearly health check or whatever. Oh, I'm good. I'm like, what's that even mean? What did they even check?
I know,
okay, you're not diabetic. Okay, what about everything else going on in your body?
Yeah, I think they legit just have a conversation, right? It's that's the conversation you have with the GPs and.
Yeah. So. We're talking about testing.
Yeah.
One of them is a organic acids test. A lot of people don't know about it. That's what I give to sometimes kids, or I give to my healthy patients that they don't even know what direction to go, or I just want to optimize things. My blood work was normal. My cholesterol's good. All that's good. And organic acids test basically shows you if you have any mitochondria energy deficiencies, some vitamin deficiencies. It's got a gut biomarkers. Is there anything that's overgrowing in your gut that you don't know about? It's got a liver section on it, and it's got your neurotransmitters. Make sure the brain, everything's firing correct. So I love that test for prevention. So I know some people watch your channel, successful people, real estate, all that. Just be a better you, sharpen your brain, make sure you don't have anything coming down the pipeline. That's a cool test a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
And it's a urine test. You just do it at home.
Nice. Simple.
Yeah, simple.
I like it.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the mindset that you were talking about, right? Because I think that's a big part of it. And I feel like the last few years that we've had as a society, like mindset is even more critical, I think, than it ever has been before. Talk to me about like your approach to like managing your mindset and like what are you helping your patients with?
Oh, mindset. Yeah, it's such a big one. Well, I mean, I think finding purpose, starting at the top, like, why am I waking up? Why am I going to work? Like obviously finding that big why, I think is really big. It's changed for me over the years, but when I was originally starting out, it was like, I have to get the word out that, hey, you don't have to live with these conditions. Like your doctor, just because he doesn't have the answers doesn't mean you're hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had this message. I'm like, I gotta get this out to the masses, like this message essentially, right? Like it's like the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the health gospel.
Yeah.
Right? I got to get this information out. And that was a driving force between starting the business and everything else. So I think identifying that, and for some people it might be something more simple, like, I just want to make everyone smile, right? And maybe by making them smile, they're more likely to do whatever or find the Lord or whatever. It could be just something simple.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be starting a business, but I think figuring that out is first.
And that can change too, like you said, like it changed for you. I think when I first like heard that concept of like, find your why, it was when I got into real estate. It was like, define that.
Yeah.
I thought I had to like have it figured out from like day one of like my ultimate why that's never going to change.
Yeah.
And I struggled with that, but like realizing like, oh no, that changes,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But, and it's a consistency of it for mindset. Like, I think the fundamentals for me is like reading and praying in the morning and maybe listening to something motivational, like listening to a video on success and like the 8 ways and, just like feeding my mind what I'm working on, and reading, praying, like meditate. Like I think breath work and like meditating, anything in that kind of sphere is super important when it comes to mindset, because that's your time to focus and take all the things you're thinking about and kind of like organize them. Essentially, it's like, hey, you have all these words, but until you organize them into a sentence, it's kind of just gibberish,
Chaos. Yeah.
And so I think meditation is a way to do that. And there's different types of breathing. There's box breathing, there's Wim Hof. It's like, it doesn't really matter. Just start with one. Just Google one and just start it, and then try another one and see what works.
Yeah.
As long as it's just like working out. Sometimes it just doesn't matter what you're doing as long as you're doing it. So mindset to me is like getting those things together, those 2 or 3 things, and just trying to do them like 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Right. For me, that was my 2025. Like I have my things I want to do 5 days a week, not 7. I'm good with 5.
Yeah.
I have my other things that I want to do twice a week. I don't need to do a ton. So I think it's the mindset is finding those core things and doing them consistently. I want to touch on like what you said, like 5 days a week, like that can be consistency. It doesn't have to be like everyday consistent, because it's hard to do that, especially starting from 0. So if it's like you're going like, I need to work out, consistently, well, work out like 1 day a week consistently. If that's like your starting point, Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned like reading, meditating, praying, journaling. Do you do any journaling?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you do those, like that's like your morning routine. Do you have like any of that stuff at nighttime?
I should, but no, not really. I think for me, what I like to do at nighttime is just think about the next day. Start to put a calendar together, kind of like a to-do list.
Yeah.
But no, that's a great idea. I love this quote. It's like, if everyone should be meditating 20 minutes a day, right? Organizing their thoughts. But people say, well, what if I'm too busy? Oh, then you should be meditating an hour a day, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, if you're so busy you can't even do these things, like, wow, you're so your kind of brain is so disorganized, and you haven't really figured out. You haven't meditated. Like, meditating is like, you can figure out what's priority. What should I really be doing? What should I be cutting out? Like,
Yeah.
So I love that.
I think that's a good
quote.
point, because I feel like I've been more aware of that recently, and when you take that 20 minutes or whatever it is, right? And then you have like your time block of like, I'm going to work during this time. I think you're more efficient because, one, you've organized your thoughts, you know what needs to be accomplished, and then like mentally you're a little bit more clear, so you're able to like focus in on that task,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah, mindset is everything.
Yeah. The other, I feel like this was like more hippie science or whatever, but now it's become real science. Like the fact of like, yeah, there's so many studies on this now, but it's like I could eat something, and if like mentally I feel like it's unhealthy for me, it's gonna have like a negative effect on your body. But if you like believe that you're gonna absorb the nutrients and you're gonna like, it's gonna have a positive effect on your body, right? So it's just like what you believe about what that's gonna do to you is like more important. Is obviously what you're eating is important, but like your beliefs around that
Yeah.
are so important. There was a study about like they were putting like rats on these hamster wheels or whatnot, and like to exercise. Like, hey, the ones that they wanted to do it because they knew it like helped them feel better. So the rats would go on there and like all their health markers would go up. But there was another one that at the same time they would force them to do it. They didn't have a choice. It wasn't like an open thing. They just were forced. These rats did the exact same action, but these had like their health markers went down and these went up.
Yeah.
And it was like they did the same thing. They ate the same thing. They did the same exercise, but like their belief about like their mindset around it.
Yeah.
You know. And
So I think I heard that too. So that goes into like you can't force anybody to do anything, right? Like they have to be ready, willing, and able to like take care of their health, right?
Yeah.
And so that's them like walking in the door to see you, which is
well, I mean, all these health things get overwhelming because there's so many things to do, and it's like I tell a lot of people like working out, you know, like yeah, I don't have a good mindset about going to an enclosed gym for an hour. Some people like it. There's a social component. There's a get the frustration out. It's like therapeutic for them. No, I want to be outside. So for me, it's like, hey, I can mentally enjoy like hard circuit for 15, 20 minutes. That's all I'm going to do. But if you would like force me to stay there another 4 minutes, it's just not good for me, right? So I think people are like, no, it's worthless unless you can go do it for an hour. I'm not going to change my diet unless I can eat fully this way. It's like, it's not true, right? And so it's just like making a small change, doing a crappy workout for 5 minutes. Hey, and like you believed it, you enjoyed it, you got a little bit of a sweat on. That's great. That's helping you a lot, right? You know what I'm saying? So I think people are just overthinking it. And it's like, do what's gonna help you, right? And it's like don't overthink it. Don't think you have to do this grand thing. It's like, no, just do a little bit of it each day and you'll be fine. It'll be great.
Yeah.
You know, like
I started following this training program, and he talks kind of about that, where it's like he's like, if you like struggle with the workouts or whatever, like don't finish the workouts. Like I have like, it's like an hour-long workout, but if that's too much for you or whatever, or you're just getting started, like don't finish them. Make it easy so it's like it's not draining you, and then you feel like the want to come back to it, and like, oh, I left more on the table. I left some on the table, and I want to come back to that, right? And I've kind of like adopted that mindset in everything, right? So it's like sometimes you just don't feel like reading a whole lot or meditating for 20 minutes or whatever it is, right? So like, let's meditate for 2 minutes. Whatever I have in me that day, like I'm just giving 100% of like wherever I'm at that day. You know, which is so if you had to pick like an overall, like, if you know I need to focus on my health, like what are 4 to 5 things that I should be focusing on?
If you're like, hey, I want to get healthy, like where do I start, right? like I said, I think that morning routine is so important. Getting up earlier. Like, I love getting up when the sun comes up and having, like, you're filling your brain with good stuff. Maybe a couple pages reading the Bible, a couple pages out of a book you like a video. Like, just get your positivity flowing in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe meditating for 5-10 minutes. Like, now you're ready to crush the day.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I think that's number one, getting that set. Number two, like we said, getting your vision and your goals, and like, what the heck are you doing with your year? You know,
Mm-hmm.
like, letting that's going to drive you to get everything else done. We're about, like, the other three things, right? Like,
Yeah.
That's what's going to push you forward. So that has to happen. And then I think, I'm a huge believer in functional medicine. Like, you got to get your body and your internals right so you can do all this stuff. Now that you have the why behind it, now that you have the morning, routine to support it, I think finding a good functional medicine doctor, sitting down, picking maybe one test that you or the doctor thinks is super important.
Mm-hmm.
Take a look under the hood and optimize your health. And, with that, having that accountability partner, having that health coach with my health coach, I did the same thing. I'm like, there's like 3 different types of, like, meditation. I don't even know what it means anymore. She's like, just do this one. I'm like, okay, I like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm like overthinking it, right?
Yeah.
She's like, just do this. Okay, shut
Yeah.
up. Okay. I'm good now. My mind's there again,
Yeah.
Well, I think the fourth thing, which we and you were talking about a little bit earlier, was you gotta enjoy life.
Yeah.
Right? Laughter is the best medicine.
Yeah.
How funny is that we have this quote, but it's like no one's talking about the quote that much. And I'm like, we're talking about medicine, but what about laughter? You know what I mean? It's like, and I told you, like, all the patients we haven't been able to help that I looked at, which is really not that many people. I could literally just think of them because it's like one person like a year or whatever. Like, really, I'm like, because I was upset that I couldn't help this person,
Mm-hmm.
at least a little bit. And I'm like, man, they had no hobbies. They weren't traveling. Like, their marriage wasn't good. They didn't really have any fun people they were hanging out with. I'm like, no good relationship, nothing fun, no hobbies, And, I think about some of these, it's guys and girls, but it's guys that I think of that are just like not healthy at all. But man, they're in their bowling league and they're like in all these clubs. Like, they have these great relationships and they're in these sports, getting a little bit of activity. Like, they're having fun and they're connected. It's like we're made to have these good relationships, and we're made to have fun and be outside and do sports. It's like getting back to, like, those roots of connection and enjoyment and fulfill. Like, so for me, I would say that's kind of like the fourth thing.
Yeah.
Is just enjoy, be joyful, and laugh.
I love that. And it's almost like have your community, right? Like, find your group of people that are, doing similar things. And I feel like it's hard to, like, the hobbies and stuff like that. Like, sometimes, like, the way America functions, right? It's so, like, work heavy, and you got to have your job and 9 to 5, or you got to grind it out and work so much.
Yeah.
And people kind of forget about, like, enjoying life.
Yeah.
Like, what is it that brings you joy? Like, go do more of that.
So, not to sidetrack us, but, like, something else I was thinking about with this enjoyment thing, is, like, it's that balance, that yin and yang of, like, you could partially retire and just have all day to do all the fun things. But to be honest, because I've slowed down, like, last year a little bit, now I'm, like, really trying to push again. I was like, man, they're not that fun when that's all you have to do. Like, that, hey, I'm productive, I'm getting, like, helping society, I'm, like, loving and helping other people with their goals, like, I'm a positive impact. Like, you feel, like you've done something, you've worked hard for it, and then it's like you get done with your day and, like, oh, I get to go golf. Mm-hmm. That golf round, for some reason, is 10 times more enjoyable when I had to work so hard for it and I was productive all day, and then I got to squeeze it in at the end of the day versus walk around, do whatever, grab breakfast, oh, we'll golf again, whatever. It's like, it's hot, it's tired, I'm ready to go home. Why am I even golfing?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like, kind of had this realization of like, it's so important. So maybe the fifth point is just balance.
Yeah.
Like really.
And that's different for everyone too, right?
Yeah.
But I think you're right. It's like, what's your purpose, right? Like that's the main focus, right? But then you need times like, I think it's like, if you gave everything into all your patients, like you're gonna drain yourself, and you're not gonna take care of yourself, right?
Right.
So you're right. It's like the balance of that, right?
But when you have time away from the patients, and you're laughing and enjoying life, you're more filled, and then those patients, you give that much more, and it's that much more enjoyable. So it's like balance is everything when you really start to look at it that way. I've been in both, where I was just trying to have fun, and then I had where I was just trying to help as many people as possible, and it was like neither situation was good.
Yeah.
So,
and how do you, I don't think there's any tricks or whatever, but like finding that balance, right? It's just like testing it out, like seeing what works for you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I think everyone's different.
Yeah.
In their balance, but don't play stupid with yourself. We know a lot more, but for some reason we just play stupid, right? And I think that's the power between meditation and relaxation and journaling, because this stuff. Sometimes you just got to organize it in your brain and write it out, and you're like, well, duh. Okay, there it is. So just more that self-awareness.
Do you think everybody has self-awareness, or is that like a muscle, like you can exercise? And
oh, for sure. I think that's definitely a lot of dust on that machine for a lot of people. And I think it's because we're so busy that we don't have time for it, essentially. Like, people aren't taking the time to look at what they're like, who they are, or what's happening, because it's like work, family, ding, ding, ding on my phone, so, and that's something you've been talking about today. It's like, that's the whole, well, if you're too busy, then you need to meditate for an hour situation of going directly where you want to go and cutting out 100 miles and figuring out, what do I need to add? What do I need to take out? Just for me, it's like, like figure out where you're going a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that too, because some people just think they have to have it all figured out before they go anywhere, and that's even worse.
That's true.
Right? You just need to start going and let the kind of
some
path guide
direction,
you.
Yeah.
But it's like hiking, right? It's like just go up the mountain. Okay, now let me sit down. Let me look at the map. Let me self-correct, and then you need to start running again. Right? But if you never get the map out and stop and look, and you're just plowing through a jungle, you have no time, you have no energy. I think a lot of people are there. They're not aware. They're just infinitely pushing forward to who knows where. Yeah.
And I think that's like where I've realized, like the last 6 months or whatever, it's like the meditation and just like being able to slow down. Like that's where that really comes into play, is like to think through, like, where am I going? Or let me take a self-assessment of like, what's going on in my day to day. Like, am I truly being as productive as I can be, or efficient as I can be? But if you don't take time to like stop, then you're never gonna figure that out.
Yeah, I found for me, like, massages are a great way. I'm like, man, is this my form of meditation?
Yeah.
Because it's like so ADD. I'm like, even if I'm in my room, I'm like, I'm thirsty. Maybe I'll make some tea real quick. I don't know. Like, I'm getting a massage. I'm not really like allowed to move.
You're forced to stay still.
You're not supposed to be using your phone. I'm like,
yeah.
Okay. And it's like, some people draw when they're listening. They'll actually pay better attention because they're drawing. I'm like, well, they're doing something. No, but it stops them from being able to do any. It's like, I'm drawing and I'm listening.
Yeah.
And if, like, for me, it's like a massage. It's like, like I'm getting work done. So my mind's kind of like thinking about that, and that's it. And then the rest of my mind is just totally cleared out, and I have like all these ideas come to me, the things that are frustrating me come into my brain, and I'm just like walking through it. Why am I mad about that? That's ridiculous. Okay, next time that comes up, blah blah blah, right? And you're just taking all this information and like sorting through it. But I think a lot of people, like I said, for me, I think massages have put me in a good spot for meditating. But for other people, yeah, just also like getting out on a mountain or just getting outside where there's no distractions. You don't have cell phone service. So I think for a lot of people, finding where they can meditate and then what, and that's different for everyone.
Yeah.
Right. Some people could probably do it when they're driving. They're just kind of like popping out. Okay. You know, and they can process things. Yeah. But
I was just thinking, like, when you were saying that, like, I like to run, and I would, I've gone through times where I'm like, okay, I have a question or something I want to think through, like, while I'm running.
Yeah.
And I'll try to do that, like, on the run, and I can't, like, really, like, focus on, like, that topic, whatever. I get, my mind's going everywhere. But then, like, towards the end of the run, like, that's when, like, more thoughts come to me for whatever reason, right? I just thought of that, and I'm like, that's kind of interesting. But you're right. It's like, it's different for everybody. So try a bunch of different things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right, so how can people get in touch with you and visit your clinic and learn more about you?
Yeah, we're in Tampa. So, like I said, we're 80% telemed, but we do see people in clinic if they're local. But just our website, axholisticmedicine.com, AXE, it's my last name. Tons of great resources on our website. You can find all kinds of stuff. And then, my Instagram, YouTube, Dr. Jordan Axe. Like my YouTube, I did on gut health. I did like a 10-minute video on like my stool test and all the things I went through, just so people like know what I'm talking about. So I have some cool like 10-minute tutorial A to Z's on some of the stuff we talked about.
Nice.
And just give us a call, we'll answer your questions, and come to the office and hang out.
Yeah, that's awesome. Jordan, man, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Fun.